All right. Well, I mentioned earlier this morning that we were going to talk some this afternoon about forming a radio astronomy special interest group at the Von Braun Astronomical Society in Huntsville. So that's what we're going to do now. Interesting group of people. But a little bit of background. I've been a member of the VBAS for over 20 years. When I first came to Huntsville out of engineering school, I pretty shortly after that joined up. But the organization itself dates back to 1954. We're going to talk about that. But it all started really when Wernher von Braun came over with the German scientists as part of the Project Paperclip after World War II. And they eventually ended up in Huntsville to work on the Redstone, which eventually led to development of the Saturn V rocket that enabled the United States space program to be successful in landing and returning safely men to the moon and back. So, very historical society. Here's a picture of Dr. von Braun and Hermann Oberth and Dr. Ernst Stuhlinger. I never met personally Dr. von Braun, but I did work with Ernst Stuhlinger some as part of the AIAA group in Huntsville that I belonged to for quite a while. It's still belong. But von Braun actually started his interest in astronomy back in as a child. I think it was 1927. He built his first telescope and his own observatory. And so ever since those days, he had a keen interest in astronomy. And there's a lot of background that goes into it. For instance, the Von Braun Astronomical Society Planetarium, the inside dome, is part of a simulated Saturn V fuel tank. The dome from one of those tanks is used inside of the planetarium. The original telescope, which is I think a 20-inch Cassegrainian telescope, is that Von Braun and his team scrounged the technical community in Huntsville for the parts and so forth. That's still there and in operation. Of course, they have several other more advanced telescopes now. But as I mentioned earlier today, as far as I know, there has never been a radio astronomy group as part of the Von Braun Astronomical Society. But there has been some interest in that whole thing. As a matter of fact, Jim Brelsford, which is a Von Braun member, has been working with some of the local schools, homeschool kids as a matter of fact, with the Goldstone Apple Valley Radio Telescope Project. And they're doing radio astronomy observations of quasars. And I'm not very familiar with this, but if you go online and look that up, you can see what happens. It's a joint effort with NASA, and a couple of universities are involved, I believe, and they actually allow students to observe quasars, and they send the data into the project and so forth. It's very interesting. I attended at least one of their sessions, and the students do calculations based on the signals received and all sorts of stuff. So it's very informative. So Jim Brelsford had quite an interest, and so did the vice president, who is currently Steve Patrick. So we decided that we would propose forming a radio astronomy special interest group within the Von Braun group. And we proposed that we would initially start with a SID installation. And as I mentioned earlier, there's also some people within the Von Braun group that are doing sun telescopes and different things like that. So there's some interest in monitoring solar activity. So that was one of our proposals. Secondly, we wanted to do Project Jove, and then eventually maybe using some of the stuff that Steve has talked about with the 20-meter telescope here from NRAO, we will progress into some more advanced activities like monitoring for neutral hydrogen and that sort of thing. So that's what we proposed and met with their board of directors, and they accepted the proposal, and so we're underway with that. Here's what we have agreed to do, and committed to do at least, and that is to get the Super SID up and running. And it is basically in place, and we've used it several times, one with the Girl Scout activity I mentioned. This summer we hope to finish up a Project Jove installation. We're actually going to get a group of students together, build one of the Jove receivers, we hope to put up a semi-permanent dipole array on the facility, and so go with Project Jove. We also would like to build a horn, and the idea there is to interface that with the raster 3 or 4 or both, whichever we can, or whatever it comes to be. And we hope to do all that in the fall. The Von Braun has an annual community-wide activity called Astronomy Day, and we plan to participate in that now with radio astronomy activities. The Girl Scout activity went over so well that we've agreed to make that an annual activity. So we're planning to do that event again next April. And I guess I was confused because when I left our meeting last year, I had in my mind that we were having the Eastern meeting at Socorro. So I've been thinking all this time, oh boy, we're all going to go to Socorro next year. But obviously I was confused. So we are going to New Mexico, but it's going to be for the Western Conference. So I've decided that we're going there as well. So we're going to make a trip there. Quite the road trip, I guess, to Socorro. So those are some activities that we have on our schedule. Quite a lot of interest being voiced. This is a picture of the Astronomy Day, and as I said, it's traditionally held in October. Weather is usually cooled down a good bit, and we're up on top of Monte Sano Mountain, which by mountain standards is kind of a small hill, really, but the elevation is about 1,600 feet above sea level, which makes it just a little under 1,000 feet above those down in the valley, so to speak. So get a good bit cooler up there, maybe not as much immediate light pollution. The bad news for radio astronomy is there's like 3 television stations transmitting up there at about 10 gigawatts or something. So that could be a problem. We have to look into that. But so far it doesn't seem to affect the Project SID all that much, and we hope that it'll work out. But there's something in the order of several thousand people from the local community cycle through. That's like an all-day event, and they have. There's some more pictures, I believe, in the written report, but there's booths set up by a lot of the local aerospace companies. We have Teledyne Braun, we have Lockheed Martin, Marshall Space Flight Center, Army Missile Command, the Army Helicopter PEO. The list goes on and on. A lot of aerospace and defense companies. So they even set up little tables, and AIAA, the American Institute of Aeronautics, Astronautics, IEEE, I mean, ASME, it's amazing, the group of people that get together. So we think this is going to be a really great opportunity to promote radio astronomy, SARA, and everything that we stand for. For a long time, and I used to participate in this myself, we did a lot of astrophotography back when we used real regular film and paper and all that stuff. We developed all that. Now it's all gone digital practically. I think they still do a little bit of chemical photography up there, but it's mainly all digital now. So we want to add the radio astronomy emphasis to what von Braun is doing, and so we think it's going to work out really well. And of course, none of us have anything to do much with our time, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and we have a lot of volunteers we think that's going to help us out. So, it's a very short presentation. I just wanted to bring this to your attention, and again encourage everyone within SARA to get out and interface with the public. Outreach, I think, is going to make a big difference in how our organization sustains itself in the future. So opportunities like this, and I know many of you out there, I've heard Jay is going to talk and has talked about before his interface with optical astronomy, and I think that's an opportunity that we shouldn't overlook, and the two really go together, because it's always nice to be able to get in the optical frequencies what we are seeing at the radio frequencies, and vice versa. So it's complementary. So we think that VBAS is a logical place to expand radio astronomy interest, and we'll give you a progress report next year, plus maybe some more photography and even video, and hopefully we can have some papers to present, or a paper to present that will include some radio astronomy data of some of the things we've done. I know what we're talking about mainly so far has been less than quantitative compared to what Skip and lots of other folks are doing. But our heart is in it, and hopefully we'll get some good results. So that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? How many of you, and I bet a lot of you have, been to Huntsville? Huntsville, oh gosh, the whole room. Okay. While you've been there, did you ever have an opportunity to go up on the mountain and see the von Braun? Tom has, I know. Bogdan, Colin has, of course. Charles, a lot of you. And so it's a very historical, nostalgic place, to say the least. It's kind of a marriage of two worlds, with the old and some of the new, and they have improved the facilities over the last few years. They've remodeled and added another building and a couple of new telescopes. I think we have up to a 20-inch Celestron up there now. So we've, it's a pretty nice facility, and I think it'll be good for radio astronomy too. Any questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you. Come to Huntsville. Oh, one question. Yes, sir. Tom. Well, we don't have a dollar amount committed from von Braun Astronomical Society, but they are willing to contribute. Basically, that's my fault because we haven't given them a budget. But we plan to do that, and I think it's probably going to be, for the first year, in the order of a few $100s to get the Project Jove set up and running, and we'll just kind of go from there. I think they're kind of, they want to see some results before they commit the big mega bucks. But they do have a large budget. I mean, they have a bank account of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, something like that, that they operate out of. So, potentially we could get a good sized chunk of that to work with. One of the things I'm hoping to do is, as I mentioned, the Raster 3 and 4 SDR receivers. We've also talked with Richard Flagg about getting one of his custom built receivers for the 1400 megacycle range. So I'd like to get some good classic stuff going on so that we can sort of contribute to the science of the whole thing. Good question, though. Anything else? Thank you very much.